So today is going to be the third step in maple syrup, which is bottling it all up. I think I've settled on contain for the 3 C's of maple syrup. Collect, cook, contain. That's the thing I'm going to go with here. So I'm going to keep this one pretty brief because one, I need both my hands and all the brain power that I can muster into paying attention. This can go sideways real fast when you get down to these last final steps. So I'm going to spin this around and show you what we got going on and explain it from there. Yesterday was batch number 2, had about 41.5 gallons. I finished it down to 5.5 quarts last night, brought it all in. So when I take off the stove and put it into this pot, I have a pre-filter that I put on top to just get a lot of the sediment that is in the pans out of it before it comes into here. That makes your finishing process later a little bit easier. So by my math, having done this long enough, I know about how much I have to cook down. I need to take out probably another 2 quarts. So at this point, another 1.5 quarts, since we've been going here for a little bit. And I don't like getting a huge raging boil going on here because, like I said, this can go sideways real quick. And having an electric stove is not my favorite way to do this. But that's what we have, so that's how I got to do it. So I have a meat thermometer that I use for when I barbecue and whatnot, and a little clip there that holds it in there just for me to monitor. Like I said, having done this enough times now, I kind of know where I need to be. But it's just good to watch. If I see that really spiking up past where it currently is, then I know we're getting there real quick. So this is going to be the brunt of it I'm just going to watch this. I'm doing some other things in the meantime as well. Things you need to have on hand. I have this ladle here. I have my test tube for the hydrometer, which I have another video on hydrometers that I can kind of show how. You can look back through my catalog and see how to use that. It's kind of, you need both hands, and I did a better job on that video than I can do right now. So essentially it's used to test if you're at the right level of sugar content before you put in the bottle. So you use this to scoop that into here, and then you use that in that, and you want it to be there. Got it? It's that simple. Little tip, I usually, these are dampened. I usually dampen them so they're wet, because once you put it in there, it's going to get a little sticky, so it sticks less to a wet paper towel than to dry one. What I usually do is I put some boiling water in one of my kids' thermoses. Because this is glass, so going from cold water into hot syrup, I don't want to risk the chance of it cracking, so I just make the temperatures roughly the same, and that helps. Then over here, I have the vacuum filter, which some of y'all have actually been brought over to this channel because of my instructions on how to build this. Right now, I have the filters soaking, and I soak them in hot water. So I have 3 pre-filters and the main filter soaking in water. And what I will do is right before it's time to filter, I will gently wring them out and put them in here where they belong. So underneath there, clamp it down, and then pour. So I'm going to try to keep you up to date here. Don't mind our kitchen's messy. Look, this is a usable, workable kitchen, and we're not one of those people that have a storybook, picturesque, movie quality kitchen that is ready to be filmed at all times, which is probably why I'm not in here in the videos as much as some people would be. So, but it's clean. It's clean as in the realm of there's not foreign debris getting into the syrup. So I'll do my best to update as this process goes on. I'm expecting, there is something else I forgot to mention here. In the stove, I already have my glass bottles that I'm going to be using. They're clean. What I do is I run them at about 300 degrees for about 5 minutes just to do a quick sterilization, but it also gets the glass up to a relative temperature as to what that is going to be. This way, again, you're not adding a hot liquid into a cold bottle. So I just leave them in there until I'm ready to use them. Today, I'll be also using plastic 32-ounce bottles. So if my math is correct, oh, and this is my bottle station here that once the fluid is in here and it's capped, you lay them on their side, whether it's plastic or the glass, you lay them on there for about 10-15 minutes just to disinfect and sterilize the cap from the heat. And then I just let them stay there until I'm done with everything. And then I clean everything up while I'm waiting. So mine sit on their side for way longer than 15 minutes, but that's just like the minimum. That's the kind of the unwritten rule about that. So if my math is correct, I'm anticipating around 110 ounces today from 41 gallons. So I decided to diversify it this time. We're doing two 32-ounce bottles, 2 10-ounce bottles, and 3 8-ounce bottles. And that should actually give me no leftover either. So that should be right on the money, I hope. So we'll see how this works out today. But that's the plan. Yeah, so I'll do my best to fill in the gaps here now that I've explained it all. Once it starts, usually for me, when I start seeing it getting really foamy and frothy, that's when I know it's about time for me to start checking. And you can see here in the test tube here, we are at 54 bricks. And we need to be at 59 hot. So we dump it back out and we let it sit for a little longer. And actually I had lowered the temperature, so now I just raised it back up again to get it back going. And then we'll test again. So it dumped out, as you can see, we're empty, put it back in there. Also, by having the hot water, what it does is the maple syrup that's on it when you come straight from here, it gets rinsed out a little bit, so you're not weighing this down every single time. Another thing, do not drop this into here. You carefully place it in because it is glass. You don't, number one, that paper can shift. And then once that paper shifts, your whole calibration is messed up. On top of, you can also crack that, and you don't want that. So we keep going. So essentially 218, it's gonna vary depending on where you are. I know for me, when I get up to 219, 220, is when I'm definitely right there. I just checked it. I'm still at 54 bricks. I'm not up at 59 where I'm supposed to be. So I'm just continuing to watch it. I'm going to turn it down a little bit easier to control if it's not too high. Because if you notice here, I'm only on number 8 on my stove. So I'm trying to not go all out here, and I'd rather go slow and steady than go too fast and ruin or have it overflow. So, because let me tell you, spilled maple syrup on an electric stove is terrible to clean up. It was no fun. You don't want to do it. So take my advice and just go nice and slow and steady. One important key tip when it comes to this particular point right here, when you're at the point of testing, don't walk away. Don't get cocky and think like, oh, I got time, because man, it can happen fast. I've only had one that's boiled over, and I was even right there. Number one tip, if you start to have it froth up, lift the pot from the stove, remove it from the heat source, and it will simmer back down very quickly. Don't try to just lower the heat, remove it from the heat. Maybe you'll still get some spillover, but it's not going to be anywhere near as bad as if you just turn the knob down and hope that you lose heat that way. So that's a really important tip. It's hard to tell, but we are right at that red line, which is 59 bricks. That's what it looks like when we're there. So now we shut it off. So what I do now, once I reach that point where it's done, I now move it off of the hot burner completely. And and I let it cool. And so I leave that thermometer in and I wait until this says 201. Niter, which are the minerals in that, will continue to develop over a certain temperature, and I believe it's over 205 if I remember correctly. So I will not pour it into the filter until it says 201. That's just been my rule of thumb, and ever since I started doing that, I've been getting crystal clear syrup. So now we prep the filter. All right, so you're not going to believe this, but I never recorded another video showing you the filtering process after that last section. So this is Christoph from the future kind of going over this last little chunk of the video because I don't want this sitting in my camera roll for months. I don't know. So you're just going to have to accept my verbal instruction instead of a physical instruction. It's actually not that bad. I'm just going to tell you briefly how to do it, and I'm going to refer you to an older video of mine of the vacuum filter that I made. So as in the last video, as I said, that there's going to be, you're going to wait for that temperature to come down to 201. Then you're going to slowly pour once you get to 201, you're going to slowly pour the syrup into the top of the vacuum filter, or however it is you're filtering. You don't have to have a vacuum filter to do this. People have been doing pour over freestanding filters for a long time. But the process is going to be the same. Don't rush it. I know the vacuum filter was made in order to help save time, but you still can rush a vacuum filter by trying to pull too much vacuum. You're trying to pull the minerals and the niter through the filter, and trust me, you can do it, so don't do that. Ask me how I know. I've done it. And then, pour in slowly. If you have an extra set of hands, then you can have somebody open up that ball valve on the vacuum filter as you pour in, and this way it can slowly pull vacuum. But you don't have to. You can do it with it wide open and go like that. So it's pretty simple. Once you're in there, then it's time to bottle. Once you're all done pouring through, you may have to use like a little spatula to move some of the niter that's been collected up on the filter out of the way so that more syrup can get through. It depends on the size of your batch. So hopefully this video, even though it's not quite the way I wanted it to end, but hopefully this video has entertained you, this whole series actually for maple syrup season 2025. It's entertained you, it's educated you, and encouraged you to be able to go out and do the same thing. It's not that hard. People have been doing it for generations. It's just, there's some little tips and tricks that you can learn along the way to make it easier and to actually do it properly, because the first time I did it, I didn't cook it enough. Then I overcooked. So I had really runny, and then I had really thick syrup. So if you want proper syrup, you got to do things kind of the proper way. So that's all I got. Thank you all for watching. This was a great season this year. We got about 4 gallons of syrup. The last batch was 54 gallons. It was a very long and large batch, which I'm super thankful for. Tapped more trees this year than last year. Hopefully next year, maybe a little bit more. We'll see what happens. I added about 2.5 gallons of walnut sap to this last batch, which adds a nice little flavor. It's amazing that only 2.5 gallons of sap was enough to change the flavor of the rest of the other 51.5 gallons. It's not ruined. I like the taste. It's got a little extra like butterscotch flavor, a little nutty flavor to it. But I am going to be a little cautious to anyone who gets this part of this batch. I have them labeled a little differently. I have them marked in case they have a nut allergy. There should not be any issues, but just in case, I'm still going to disclose that to people. So that's it. All right. Thank you all so much. Stay tuned for way more content here on One Sweet Acre. I don't know what's coming up this year, but we got our usual. We got meat birds coming. Hopefully we're going to be hatching out our own egg layers this year. That'll be a first. Well, it's not a first for us. We've done it before, but on a larger scale. We got garlic season coming up. It's already sprouting through. Springtime's rolling through here in PA. And hopefully more bees. We got a lot of honey this spring because we lost our bees, but we're hoping to catch more bees, a wild swarm, and start all over again. So join us along the way, subscribe, share with somebody, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll do our best to help you out. Thanks. Have a good one.